guys, John here for Thrower Football, DRFC, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel. It's the season review. I'm filming this and uploading this before the FA Cup final today, but this is the day, the 15th of May. It's the season review. We're going to look at the stats of this season, goals conceded, goals scored, the position in the table, you know, wins, draws, losses, look at the records broken, etc. All that good stuff. I'm going to share my official player ratings. So what I've done is I've gathered up all the individual ratings from each individual game for each player, and I put it through an average number calculator online, and it's giving me a point number. So if it's under 0.5, it will be that number. If it goes over 0.5, it's 0.5 or over, it'll round up to the next number up, the next whole number. So I mean, that's the little maths behind how I've done the average ratings. But yeah, let's go straight into this, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, click notification bell so you never miss another video. Let's get into this. So obviously we have to start with the overall stats of this season. So we won 19 games, we drew 7 and lost 20 with a 64-point season. Now obviously we've scored 63, conceded 67, and the difference of course is -7 in terms of goal difference. We've had 61 yellow cards, it was 66 the previous season, and our last red card was Giroc Nabiri in a 2-1 defeat to Gillingham on the 15th of February 2020 during the 2019-2020 season. So we've had no red cards this season. We are probably one of the only, I think we're the only club, or one of the only clubs in English football to not have a red card this season. I think it's us and MK Dons. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's us and MK Dons that are the only two clubs to not have a red card this season in English football, which is unbelievable. It shows how disciplined we are as a football club. And, you know, when you look at the stats there, I mean, 67 goals conceded. That's not good enough in my opinion. I think we saw the news from the retained list. We know that Danny Amos has been released. We know that Joe Wright, even though he is rehabilitating over most of this season. Yes, we've got Butler. Yes, we've got Anderson. Yes, we've got John. Yes, we've got the youngster Ben Blythe. But I think one of our priorities in the transfer market has to be centre-backs. It has to be centre-backs in my opinion. We need at least one player in every position if we can. But if we can get multiple players in the same position, if we can get 2 or 3 in some positions, one of those positions for me would be centre-back. Because with Wright injured for most of the next season, doesn't matter if he signs a new deal or not, we are helping him to rehabilitate and rehab the injury over the next 9 months, so we're being a nice club about it, so he's going to miss most of the next season. So with Butler, Anderson, John and Blythe, that's 4 centre-backs. We need at least 2 more centre-backs, and I know we're going to try and search for them as soon as we announce who the manager's going to be on Monday. Obviously, there are other positions that we need to search for, which I'll talk about later on in the video. I'll recap the centre-back situation, obviously, but centre-back is a key area. Yes, we scored 63 goals this season, which is great. It's a great number, but what we've been missing is a 20-plus goal striker. Yes, Giroc Nabiri is brilliant, and I think that, you know, if we can get him a partner, or if Omar Bogle finds his shooting boots and becomes a 20-plus goal scorer, then we'll have that position sorted. But I think, again, it's another position that I'll need to talk about later on, because we need to look at who we need in that position. Now, in terms of season statistics, now this is where we see the collapse in the second half of this season. So between the first 23 games and the next 23 games, here are some more season stats. Rovers earned 48 points from the first 23 games with a 2.09 points per game. Now from the next 23 afterwards, we won just 16 points in 23 games. That is a 0.70. No wonder we finished 14th this season. No reason. After 23 games, Rovers were 3rd in the table, 3 points behind leaders Lincoln City with 2 games in hand. We now finish 14th behind Gillingham, Accrington, Crewe and MK Dons. If it got worse and some of the wins that we picked up in those last 23 games were defeats or even draws, we could have finished below Burton. And while we were nearly a point away from the top of the league at Christmas, Burton were bottom. Imagine if we finished below Burton. Now, it's a great achievement for Burton and Hasselbank and their revival, but for us, that's embarrassing. And there's no way of saying it, that's embarrassing. So, it wasn't a great finish to the season at all. 27 points from the final 23 games. Points per game, 1.17, would have been enough to secure a playoff spot. We lost 5 times in the first 23 games. We then lost 15 of the next 23 games. That's embarrassing, man. We scored 41 goals in the first 23 games. They scored 22 in the next 23. We conceded 23 goals in the first 23 games. We then conceded 44 in the next 23 games. Andy Butler was in charge for the 18 games. His record was 4 wins, 3 draws, 11 defeats, with a win ratio of 22%. Rovers did finish joint top of the one table, the fair play table. It is us and MK Dons that were the only teams in League One not to have had a single player red carded. Are we the only teams in English football to not receive a red card? Comment down below on that. But yeah, it's us and MK Dons out of League One. I was right. But I think it's pretty much fair to say it's been a tale of 2 seasons this season. It's been a real tale of 2 seasons. First half of the season, first 23 games were brilliant. Only little mistakes here and there. Yes, the EFL trophy against Oldham wasn't amazing. And the EFL Cup first round knockout against Blackburn Rovers 3-2 was not great. But we still picked up a lot of points in the first 23 games. And then just the form changed. There was a lot of factors in that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. We have come to the point where we come towards our player ratings. So, we might as well just get started. So, of course, we're going to talk about every player that's featured at least once this season for Doncaster Rovers. So, let's start with goalkeepers. First up, Joseph Bersick, our lone keeper, brought in and then sent back to Stoke about halfway through the first half of the season. And then never heard from him again, apart from going to Peterborough, obviously. He was in the Stoke lineup and then went to Peterborough for a couple of weeks to fill in for Christy Pym before that last game of the season against us. So, Joe Bersick, overall his average rating is a 7 out of 10 through the average calculator. In terms of his ratings throughout the season, I gave him 6, 6, 7, 7, 6, 9, 7, 5, 6, 6, 7. So a real range, but it's been mainly mid rating, shall we say. So overall, the average rating from him was a 7 out of 10. I think overall I would have given him a 7 out of 10 as well. I think the average calculator's spot on with that one. I think that his performances, were all right. There was some stinkers, and some great ones. But I think that Bersick, I think there was times where his distribution let him down a bit. I think that his saves, though, were really good. I think there were great saves made. And I think he's definitely one for the future in goalkeeping. Surely 100%. So we'll see what happens with Bersick's future. But good luck to Joe. Now, Joe Lumley from QPR. Hashtag announce Lumley that was happening every week for the first half of the season. Like the second slice of the first half of the season. The hashtag announce Lumley. Again, the average calculator gave him a 7 out of 10. I'd have probably gone with a 6, not going to lie. I think that it was good performances, just alright. And I think that it was just slightly under Bersick for me. Some people may agree, some people may disagree, but I think it was just under Bersick. Lewis Jones. Now, he's been our goalkeeper pretty much for most of the times when Andy Butler's been in charge. So, for most of the 18 games remaining this season. The average calculator gives him a 7. But I'm going to give that guy an 8. I think overall 8 is a more fairer result in my opinion, because I think Lewis Jones is definitely one for the future as well as the here and now. And I feel like, with him being homegrown talent, I think that he's got a bright future ahead of him. So, I don't know, I find it's weird because I really want Lewis Jones to do well. I really do want him to do well. And, I think he's someone that I want to see succeed in this squad for the future in the long term. So, I do think that Lewis Jones will be our number 1 next season. I've got no doubts about it. I was speaking to some fans on Sunday at the Keepmo So a couple of fans, don't think Jones will be number one for the long term. They don't. Maybe he needs a bit more time. But I personally politely disagree. I think that Jones is ready. I think that just improves that communication a bit more, improves distribution still a little bit, and just pulls off the saves when needed and just keep your concentration on. I think he could be a wonderful goalkeeper. He's contracted till at least next season, so I think we'll sign him on a new deal, and I think he's one of the ones we'll keep for the long term. So I've got faith in Rhys James, especially with Lawler being released and Balcom going back. We've got Bottomley as backup right now, unless someone new comes in from the new manager, whoever that may be, and whoever Graham Younger, our new talent identification manager, decides to recruit for that position. But it should be interesting. We'll see what happens with that one. But Rhys James definitely one for the future. I'd have given him 1 up on the average rating, so I'd personally give him an 8, but the average calculator gives him a 7. So next up, Balcom. Now the average calculator gives him a 6 out of 10. I've got to go with that. I've got to go with a 6 out of 10. Mixed performances, some great performances, some bad performances, some costly mistakes, some great saves to go with it. His standout performance for me was the Lincoln game when we won 1-0. He could save the Titanic. That was the title of that review. He could save the Titanic from sinking, making the 2 penalty saves. And one of the penalties was actually caused by him. So he saved 1 penalty, made a mistake, and then rectified that mistake by saving another penalty. It was a wonderful, heroic performance. And I think all the Rovers fans were like, "Oh my God, thanks for not giving me a heart attack, Elliot Balcom." In my opinion, his worst performance was 2-1 defeat to Accrington, just a few games before the end of the season. We all know that mistake. Free kick from Accrington near the end of the match after we just got back level through Tyrese John-Jules. And the keeper just bounced off his knee, dropped it. And again, it's like the Lincoln mistake for the second penalty. Caused the penalty and just didn't save it this time. And we didn't have it enough to grab another equaliser. So, that was a really costly mistake. And you could see by the title of that review, my thoughts was, drop Ellery Balcom for the rest of this season. Because we can't be relying on those mistakes anymore. We can't. So I think Balcom's had a mixed season. He's a really nice guy. I tweeted best of luck to him on Twitter, and he liked it. So fair play to Ellery for how great he is, and I've got every confidence that he'll do well, as he'll be a future first team goalkeeper at Brentford when potentially David Raya moves on in the future, if he does move on. And, Balcom will definitely be number 1 for Brentford at some point. So I think that, Balcom's got a bright future at Brentford, just not really at Rovers. So he tried his best, gave us some good moments, and, best of luck, Ellery Balcom, in your future endeavours. Now, let's go into defenders. So we're going to start off with someone who we don't know if he's leaving yet or not, but... discussion's still ongoing, but potentially this is the last season after 2 years, pretty much, of this right back, Brad Halliday. The average calculator gave him a 6 out of 10. I probably agree with that, to be fair. I think that, I think, I don't know, man. I think that, again, it's just, I just feel as if Halliday he's had great performances, don't get me wrong. He's had wonderful performances, but I just personally feel as if he just needed more confidence, and he has put in great performances. Been performances this season where he's been amazing at right back, and I just feel as if there was performances that sort of weighed the scales back up a bit again, where he didn't put in great performances. The one against Sunderland, I feel like that one was a no-go. That was an absolute no-show performance. Getting skinned about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times involved in the goals. And you could hear my frustrations on that match review because I was so frustrated with his performance. And it was a side that had no confidence at the time as well, which made it even worse. So, I think overall, I just don't think he has what he takes, and... maybe he will improve. Maybe he will improve next season, and I hope if he stays on next season, I pray that he does. But you see the links. You see the links from verified sources with Fleetwood, and some Cambridge fans want him back, and You know, you sort of think to yourself, well, if we recruit a right back, if we get a couple of right backs in to support Charlie Seaman, maybe Brad Halliday might get a better opportunity moving forward to a different club. And that's not being disrespectful to Brad. I just feel like if we are going to recruit right backs in the positions, maybe it's a sign that we do need to move Brad Halliday on. So I wouldn't be surprised either way whether this stays or goes, but I just personally feel like it could go any way. But if he does move on, then I've got every confidence to say that he's been probably our best right back since O'Connor, the Sean O'Driscoll era a decade ago. He's been arguably our best right back since then, and our best 2010s decade right back and 2020s decade right back so far. So I've got every confidence that he's done well for this club. I wish him the best of luck if he doesn't sign, and we'll see what happens with his career. But best of luck, Brad Halliday, wherever you go, whether it's staying here or going somewhere else. Now Tom Anderson, the captain. This is a very easy one. Average calculator gave him 7. I've got to give him an 8 this season. I think he's been arguably our best, up there as one of our best players. I think that overall, I feel like Anderson is a leader. He deserved the captain's armband when Ben Whiteman was let go. I think that Tom Anderson is a unbelievable guy, you know, in that back line. He's one of the star men in that back line. And with Butler back as a player, we are going to need new defenders. We're definitely going to need new defenders. And I'd be interested to see, you know, how Anderson links up with their new partners, whether it is John coming back in, obviously the Butler-Anderson partnership, and if any new players coming, you know, I want to see what those partnerships bring, whoever comes into partner Anderson as a new defender. So, you know, I think this summer is all about building a brand new permanent spine, and I think Anderson will be a part of leading that spine. Obviously, there are leaders off the field, Graham Younger, who the manager is, James Coppinger in the advisory role, but there's leaders on that pitch that will lead. Coppinger's been on there, he'll lead from the back, off the field. But Anderson's one of the leaders on the field that will lead this team, that will lead the new generation of talent going forward. And one consistent thing that I've seen from Anderson is passion. Loads of passion, firing fury. That's what I see. As soon as they concede a goal, get up, get back, get scoring a goal, put some passion in this team. He's so passionate. He makes cheerleading squads look like they can't give a damn. You know, he takes the passion. He brings the ultimate passion. He's amazing. He's incredible. He's unbelievable. He makes cheerleading squads look like they have no passion because he has all of it. He has the passion of a cheerleading squad, which is full of passion and fight and fury and, you know, driving your team on. You know, that's what he delivers in this side, and he's delivered that. He's put in crucial blocks. He's been amazing on the field. He's been a leader off the field. He cares about the club. You know, he's got that Sean Dyche defensive mentality where defend at all costs. That's the defensive mentality of Sean Dyche at Burnley. Defend at all costs. Don't matter whether you're still at Burnley or you leave. Defend at all costs. And he delivers that game in, game out pretty much. So I think Tom Anderson's definitely been one of our better players. And yeah, I think that he's overall amazing. Now, let's go into our next player, Joe Wright. Again, there's question marks over, you know, whether he's going to stay or not. Average calculator says 6 out of 10. I've probably got to go with that rating as well. I've got to go with a 6 out of 10. I think that overall, just it's been alright. I think there's performances that have been great, performances that have been not so great. He's a skillful defender. Don't get me wrong, he's a skillful defender. He's got some skills on him, and he can make defenders pay for their own mistakes. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's been an okay mixed season for Joe Wright. I think performances have been great, performances have been poor, and obviously he's going to be missing for the next 9 months. So, you know, we're not going to see pretty much anything of Joe Wright next season, whether he's a player or not next season. We are helping him rehabilitate from the injury. We're not going to see him for at least 9 months, maybe even ever in a Rovers shirt again. So it's going to be one of those things. But it should be interesting to see what he does if he does leave. But overall, I think a mixed season for Joe Wright. Butler, average calculator gave him 7 out of 10. I'm going to go with a high 6. I think it's fair to give him a high 6. I think that overall, he came in, he did well. He had to come out of the managerial setup, lead from the back line, show defenders how it is to defend, and just try and do it as best he can. Because he cares about the club, he really does. He has that passion for the club, and he wants to be here next season as a player. So, I got no qualms with Butler. He did his best, but overall it was just alright. Next up, Rhys James. I think this guy, he gets my award for player of the season. 8 out of 10. He's 100% 8 out of 10. 100% player of the season. And I think that he deserves it. He's put in wonderful performances, more than bad. He's been a versatile player. He's played in the attack, he's played in the defence, he's played in the midfield. You know, he can play anywhere, and he can do a job. It's very 50-50 at the moment whether he's going to sign or not. But I hope he does sign, because I think he deserves to stay at this club. He deserves to get that respect from the fans. So I think Rhys James has been our player of the season. It'd be a real shame if we let him go, you know, this summer. Because I think he deserves the contract. He's one of those that deserves to stay here. Cameron John, average calculator gave him 6 out of 10, just like Rhys James. But I'm going to give him 6 out of 10. I think overall it's been a mixed season for Cameron John. Played at left back, played at centre back, played, around that back line, and it's been a mixed season. He's a fan of the channel, which is great. I love him for that. Shout out to Cameron John. And I think that hopefully he can kick on next season under a new manager. I think a new manager could give him a new breath of confidence. So we'll see what happens with him. Danny Amos, obviously we know this is his last season now for Rovers. He's been released. 6 out of 10 says the average calculator. I gave him 5 out of 10. The reason why I gave him 5 out of 10 is because I just don't think he's not been amazing from him. I don't think he's been amazing because I think he's just put in alright performances, nothing outstanding. In my opinion, if he started more, he could have got used to the pace of the league a bit more this season. So I think that he could have got a higher rating if he got more game time, but just one of those things, isn't it? And I think it just didn't work out. So best of luck, Danny Amos, wherever you go. You are an excellent commentator, though. I'll give you that. You're an excellent commentator. But I think playing this season has just been very mixed. So it's just one of those things where just get first team football somewhere else, unfortunately, and it is unfortunate. Now, finally, for the defenders, we go to Brandon Horton, and I've given this guy a lovely 6 out of 10, just like the average calculator. It is a very, 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 very high 6. It could have been a 7, but it was a very, very high 6. Again, just a good season. I think an alright first season. Stepping into the Football League for the first time in the second half of the campaign. Amongst all the bad form, he's actually been alright. So I think that Brandon, again, I think he's a wonderful player. He'll be great next season with that new deal on his name, and he'll be here for at least an extra year. And I think we've got confidence in this guy, so hopefully he can really kick on next season now if he's given the game time. Let's go into the midfielders, starting off with who, in my opinion, if it wasn't for Rhys James, this guy would have been player of the campaign. And I've got to give him an 8 out of 10, just like the average calculator's given him. Ben Whiteman. In that first half of the season, he was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's a wonderful human being. I think that overall he deserves the move to the Championship. I think he deserved it. The money helped us financially. And it's a shame we couldn't see the best of him in the second half of the season and help keep that team stable and help be another leader in that team. Because, you see Preston fans already. The Preston fans love him. The Preston club love him. The players around Preston North End love him. Every time a player leaves us, they go to a club and the fans fall in love with that player. So, I think that Ben Whiteman's just been wonderful for us, and good luck in the Championship next season for a first full season with Preston, because you obviously deserve it. He's been great since he's been in there, and we'll see what happens with Preston next season with a first full season with Ben Whiteman. Now, next up, Matt Smith. Of course, he's gone back to Manchester City from his loan spell. Average calculator gave him 7 out of 10. I'd probably agree with that, to be honest. 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair rating. I think that overall Matt Smith, he's been a great playmaker in the team. I think that he's definitely showed some wonderful range of passing. He's got that ability. I think he's got that Pep Guardiola-ness about him in a way. And I think that overall he'll kick on at Man City, hopefully. So I think maybe one more loan out, and then the following season he might get some first team action. But overall, couldn't fault him this season. He's been great. So I'm going to give him 7 out of 10, just like the average calculator has given him. Next up, he's only played a few games, but you've got to give him a rating anyway because he has featured this season. Lyric Hassani. I'm going to give that guy a 6 out of 10, just like what the average calculator's given him. I think that overall, I think that's the rating I would give him. I think that overall it's just been alright. Held it up well, showed some good moments. More game time could mean a longer stay at the club. And there's a reason why he's in talks with a new deal along with the Kilo and James. I think that, again, I think Hassani could be one for the future. So 6 out of 10 for the few performances this season before he got that loan out to Gateshead that was eventually called off short. But we'll see what he does next season. Now, Scott Robertson, he's gone back to Celtic. Average calculator gave him 5 out of 10. I'm probably going to give him a 5 out of 10 as well. Not great. I think we didn't see the best of him during his loan spell. He could have been great. There were signs at the beginning where he could have been great, but I think it just dropped off in a way. So I think Robertson could have done better, but I think he'll go back to Celtic and try and earn a first team spot in the future. Next up, John Bostock. Obviously arrived in January from his last club, Toulouse in France. 6 out of 10 on the average calculator. I've got to agree with that, 6 out of 10. I think he's put in performances that have been great, performances that have been not so great compared to others. Not worst performances in the world, but just overall, just alright performances. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with him. I think that overall he's been alright. So I think he'll kick on again next season. Now, Madja Gomez. Now, the average calculator's given him 6. Unfortunately, I've got to disagree with the calculator and I've got to give him a 5. And the reason why I give him a 5 is because he started off well and then just grew worse and worse in my opinion. And I think maybe he just needs the move elsewhere. He's been released, I wish him all the best. I think he deserves the move elsewhere. I think he needs more first team football to really kick on his confidence again. So I think that he needed the move away, in my opinion. So best of luck, Madja Gomez, but in my opinion, I think he just needed the move away somewhere, just to get your confidence back up and running. I think the move away is a good thing for Gomez because I don't think he would have got much first team football next season when we bring in the new manager and the new talent ID and bring in the new players, etc. I don't think he would have been given first team football much next season. So I think he's better moving away, giving him more first team football elsewhere because I think that's better for his career than just rotting on the bench for the whole season next season. So best of luck, Gomez. Wish you luck for the future, mate. Now, next up, Liam Ravenhill. Only played 2 games, or was involved in 2 games. Average calculator gives him 7 out of 10. I'll be easier and give him a high 6. I think the promising signs, really promising signs, and hopefully we keep him on a professional contract. Now, next up, we've got and AJ Greaves. Now, obviously, going into this season, I would not have thought that he would have got much. I think he deserved more first-team football, but not as much as I would have thought he was going to get. Now, average calculator gives him 6 out of 10. I've got to give him 7 out of 10. I've got to give him a 7 out of 10. I think he's been great. So, Greaves next season will really, he'll really push on next season, and I think that he'll be one of the ones to watch next season. So, I think that he's someone that I think will push on and really develop again next season. I think his career will take another huge step forward. Next up, John Taylor. Injury cut his second half of the season short. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10, despite the average calculator giving him a 6 out of 10. I think Taylor's been great. He showed the pace down the wing, and it's a shame his season got cut short. But I think overall he'll be all right. Taylor Richards, again, average calculator 6 out of 10. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I think Taylor Richards, again, was a wonderful manoeuvre of the ball. I think that he's got that flair about him, that Paul Pogba-esque talent about him, and we'll see what he does wherever he is next season. But I think that it was just a good campaign for Taylor Richards. Good year of development. You know, playing 40 games this season has been great for his development. So, best of luck for the future, Taylor Richards. Ed Williams, didn't really see much of him this season. Not really given much game time. He got a 6 out of 10 on the average calculator. I've got to go with a 5 in my opinion. And the reason why I've got to give him a 5 is because I think that overall, just we haven't seen much of him. And I think that, you know, Kidderminster fans say, well, I think with better players around him, he'll kick on. I think we didn't give him much game time that we should have. So hopefully this pre-season he can really kick on and show why he should be starting and show Welland why he should be starting. But we'll see what happens with him. Next up, the man, the myth, the legend, James Coppinger. Wow. What can I say about this guy that I haven't said already in previous videos? He's a legend. He's an icon. He's unbelievable. Just overall, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. So I've got to give him a 7 out of 10. The average calculator gives him 6. I've got to give him a 7. I think Coppinger's been a legend, and I think, again, it's been a good season this season. But now he can just go into this new advisory role and help sort out the club off the scenes and help, you know, develop the next generation of stars. Lakilo, he gets a 6 out of 10 in the average calculator. He gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Second half of the season for a couple of games did catch on quite well. But I think overall it was just too little too late. But I think he'll be given more time next season. I think he'll really develop next season as well. Elliot Samoas, he'll be going back to his parent club. He gets a 5 despite the average calculator giving him a 6. I think, again, just not really great for me. Sims, 7 out of 10 in the average calculator, finally for the midfielders / wingers, and he gets a 6 out of 10 for me instead of 7. I think that Sims, first half of the season, great. Second half of the season, very mixed. So I think that 6 is a fair judgment. Finally, the 4 strikers that we've had this season. John-Jules, I'm going to give him the same rating as the average calculator gave him, which is 7 out of 10. I think that he's energetic. He's got pace and power. I think that overall he looks, you know, incredible. And, you know, wherever he goes next season, I think he'll really kick on. So I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. For Giroc Nabiri, he got a 6 out of 10 in the average calculator. He gets the same here. I think that overall Nabiri just didn't really catch on at times. But there's other times where he put in excellent performances. So a very, very high 6 from me. Bogle, again, I've got to agree with the average calculator, 5 out of 10, just didn't put in the great performances, was not good on the field. In fact, there is 7 games in a row where he scored less than a 5, or a 5 or less. In the last 8 games, shall we say, let's go 8 games instead of 7. In the last 8 games, he scored 4 5s, 3 4s, and a 3. So, you know, I was kind of being generous with some of them ratings, but overall, just he needs improvement in his finishing, in my opinion, and maybe next season he'll do that. And finally, Tulloch only played 2 games. Not the greatest player to end on, but he played 2 games. He showed good performances, 6 out of 10, just like the average calculator. Couldn't argue with that. In those 2 games alone at the start of the season, he was looking like magic feet. So it's a shame we didn't get to see his full potential. Now, the managers. Now, Darren Moore, I'm gonna be fair here and give him a 7 out of 10 because, just like the average calculator, because I think that Darren Moore put in great performance as a manager. The last 5 games weren't great, but it was, you know, what could we do? Players weren't in form. He chose to jump ship, and maybe that's his loss now. He's in League One with Sheffield Wednesday, so. We'll see what happens next season against him, but I think a 7 out of 10 is a fair rating. Andy Butler as a manager, I've got to give him the same as the average calculator finally, and that's a 6 out of 10. I think overall, again, it was an all-right managerial career for Butler in the last 18 games. Not the greatest win record, but overall just all-right. Do I feel sorry for Butler? Yes, because I think that overall he was thrown under the bus by players' performances. So I think he just needs more development as a manager, but that doesn't excuse the fact that players threw him under the bus, in my opinion. I think that Butler's been the scapegoat for many of the performances in the second half of this season, so we just have to learn and live with it. But Butler will go back to Bells managing as well as playing as centre-back next season and focus on, managing the Bells and getting that more development under his belt for the Doncaster-born lad. Now, finally, we have to look towards next season. Obviously, we know most of the teams, nearly all the teams that's coming into League One next season. We know that Wycombe, Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday are down. It could be Derby, but I think the points deduction will be next season, in my opinion. So I think it is Wycombe, Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday, for definite. And coming into this league, it will be Cambridge, Cheltenham, Bolton, and it will be one of Morecambe, Tranmere, Newport and Forest Green. One of those four will join them. Going out of the league will be Bristol Rovers, Rochdale, Swindon and Northampton to League 2. Hull, Peterborough and one of Blackpool, Lincoln, Sunderland and Oxford will be going up to the Championship with Hull and Peterborough. So it's going to be a very interesting league. Obviously, in terms of transfer positions, I will explain this more in a different video, but if you want my honest opinion, goalkeeper, right back, couple of centre-backs, couple of centre midfielders, striker maybe a winger or two. If Rhys James is going, a new left back. That's where I'm looking at in terms of positions. Maybe even a cam as well. I think if we're looking at it realistically, in terms of this rebuild over the summer under the new manager, we need like 8 to 12 new signings. That's how big this rebuild is. So we'll see what happens. But there we go, guys. That is my season review. A season of promise, a season of collapse. That is the best way to describe it, in my opinion. But there we go, guys. Thank you very, very much. My name is Aaron Chandler from Forever Football, DRFC, keep living the Rovers life. And there we go. That is full time. Rovers Tie Die. Stay tuned for the FA Cup final stream at 5 o'clock. And yeah, that is full time. Rovers Tie Die. Let's look to next season. Come on. Rovers!